Welcome back to the Manc Entrepreneur YouTube channel. We're back in the e-commerce bar, and in today's episode, I want to talk to you about the breaking news that Adobe has just bought Magento. Now, this is, I've been working pretty closely with sort of on the Magento platform for the last 5 years. And in that time, there has been 3 owners. Adobe will be the 3rd, I think, now. So this isn't new. Anyone who's using Magento or familiar with Magento is used to it being in different hands. When I first got started, eBay owned it, and then it got sold off with eBay Enterprise and was taken on by a private venture firm, and now it has been sold to Adobe. What this really means at this early stages, we're not quite sure. Adobe has reportedly agreed to acquire Magento in the ballpark figure of $1.6 billion. So, I mean, that's quite a substantial amount of money. And what this means, again, we're not entirely sure. Obviously, Adobe is a huge business, huge enterprise sort of scale business who are very well accredited within the industry. In the tech industry, they are very highly thought of for what they do. They make good quality products, not cheap, but they make good quality products. Photoshop, for example, is the go-to for any sort of photo editing software. And it's interesting to now think, well, what does this mean for Magento? The more that we sort of delve into this, it gets a little bit interesting to see the direction that it will take. Now, Richard over at eCommerce Cafe, my co-founder over there, he's put a story together as this was breaking last night with a few different bits and pieces. And I'm sure there will be more that comes available as the information becomes available. He's currently, I believe at the time I'm recording this, he's actually listening to the call that took place last night in the UK time. Because Adobe is a public company, they have to make announcements to things like this with the shareholders and everything else. And so he's currently going through that to see what we can actually glean from that call. Now, I use Photoshop. The thumbnail for this video will be made on Photoshop, and it's one of those things where ultimately, how does Magento now tie into the direction that Adobe want to go in? There has to be a reason why Adobe would spend $1.6 billion on Magento. It's because Magento it's going to take a long time for Magento to make that much money profit in order for it to be a worthwhile deal. So they are seeing a value add as part of Adobe's big plan here. And that's what we're going to try and look into what it is that they could be doing. So Adobe, I didn't know this, have something called Experience Cloud. Now, if you go over to the Experience Cloud website, it's a little bit interesting. They have introducing Adobe Experience Cloud, massive amounts of data, different devices, screens, blah, blah, blah. What is it? So Adobe Experience Cloud integrates a different set of solutions to help build campaigns, manage advertising, and gain deep intelligence about your business. So they have Adobe Advertising Cloud, where you can use cross-channel video, display search, social ad delivery. They have Analytics Cloud, which obviously gives you data on how everything is performing, and then Marketing Cloud. And now this is where they're going to plug in Magento. So whether this becomes Adobe's Commerce Cloud, we will have to wait and see. But as you can gather there from those things, you've got marketing, you've got analytics, and the other one, advertising, analytics, and marketing cloud. If they then have the commerce piece, they actually have a full suite of tools there. They have the bit which lets you sell the products. They then have the bit which lets you market the products, the advertising of the products, as well as in the analytics, which tells you how those ads and your marketing is performing across all the channels. So this is interesting. And again, a few months ago, Magento announced that they were very close, or they had basically built an integration into Amazon. And this was in sort of beta and will be rolled out later this year. It's fair to assume that that will not change. So now does Adobe have potentially a multi-channel e-commerce platform which bolts into their Experience Cloud along with marketing, advertising, and analytics? When you think about it, this could be one hell of a purchase for Adobe here. They could have just propelled themselves into the e-commerce market with one purchase, whilst they've actually already got a whole host of sweet products which would complement incredibly well. So what does this mean for sellers right now? Well, as with any big purchase like this, it has, nothing happens overnight. And I'm surprised that I didn't hear anything. There was no murmurs, no whispers that this was happening. Literally, the news broke last night, and that was it. There was breaking news to me, and like I said, I'm pretty familiar, finger on the pulse with everything that's going on in Magento. So this will become a bit of maybe becomes a shock to some people, to some users of Magento. However, right now, I think it's fair to say it's not a time to worry. It's not a time to panic, because like I said, with any big acquisition, it takes time to happen. It'll have to go through like all the competition authorities and monopolies and everything else. And Adobe have come out and said, we're expecting this acquisition to be complete in Q3. So that's what we're talking, sort of September time, roughly around then. Oh no, sorry, that's going into Q4. So anytime between sort of July, August, September, that's when we're expecting this that's Q3. So what does it, how does this impact e-commerce? It's very curious. Like I said, out of anyone that could have bought Magento, Adobe is perhaps one of the better people who could have bought it. Again, they run a very successful business model. Will it see Magento move? There's two concerns which I have. Is that you look at Adobe's Experience Cloud, and it all sounds great, all sounds very good. And then you look at some of like Adobe's customers at that level, and you're talking Coca-Cola. Let's just waiting for the site to load there. UBS, Virgin Atlantic, these are the enterprise level businesses here, which is all well and good, that's fine. And we've seen obviously that what Photoshop was always an enterprise level software. It was never cheap. You're talking hundreds of pounds for a piece of software. And they've always gone after that enterprise market, Adobe. It's always been good quality, high level, premium product. And Magento Enterprise fits in with that model perfectly well. But what about Magento Community? What about the open source edition, which so many, millions of people use? And obviously the development community, Magento 2 and Magento 1 both have their independent sort of extensions, which, probably employ hundreds and thousands of people, develop thousands and thousands of extensions. I can't see Adobe turning their back on that, because that has an immense value as it is. But that isn't Adobe's core market. Now, you can argue that with Photoshop recently and all their other sort of little software products, they have developed an SaaS model, a SaaS product, a software as a service, where now you can pay, I think it's $20 a month, and you'll get access to Photoshop. So there you go. You now, instead of having to pay your upfront £400-500 mark, you now can pay $20 a month and get full access to Photoshop. Are we going to see Magento Community Edition go down that similar route? If it's not the full thing, then are they going to start charging you a SaaS price for the Amazon integration? or for multiple channel integration? Who really knows? There's a lot of hypotheticals right now because we don't actually know. This is all speculation. The news just broke and we are a little bit light on the details. All we know is that Magento is going to be enveloped by the Adobe's Experience Cloud. The current CEO of Magento, Mark Lavelle, he's going to come over with Magento to Adobe's Experience Cloud and still run it from there. In the meantime, whilst all this is going on, both companies are still operating entirely independently. So at the time of speaking, Magento is still Magento, Adobe is still Adobe. But you have to know that in the background, they are planning this. How is this all going to fit together? And it's an exciting time. It's interesting times to see how this will affect sellers in the long run. My advice for you right now is not to panic. Nothing's going to drastically happen, at least until Q3 this year. And honestly, they would be fools to make any massive changes to the current setup until next year. If Adobe were to start messing with things come Q4 2018, it would be catastrophic to so many businesses, including Magento as a whole. It would damage the brand massively. I don't think that's in their interest. So for right now, don't panic. You've got, I would say, until the rest of the year. Magento is still supposedly talking about, well, Magento was still saying they were going to support Magento 1 until 2020. We will have to see if that is still the case. Who actually knows? But yeah, it's a curious one. It's a curious one. My biggest advice to anyone right now is whatever you were thinking of doing with, again, whether you were thinking about moving from Magento 1 to Magento 2, I'd hold off right now. I would literally hold off and wait and see what happens. If you have a Magento platform which is running and it's smooth and the integration works, and you know, if it's working, don't fix it. Don't if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is the general message. So wait and see what happens. It could be that come Q1 2019, Adobe brings out a brand new sort of statement about what they're going to do with Magento, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, you can make a decision. They will not make an announcement which changes something overnight. They'll give you months and months and months of notice. So I would say the general message is don't panic. Just be aware of what's going on, which is what this video is about. It's letting you know what has happened. Adobe has agreed to acquire Magento for $1.6 billion. This is set to go through in Q3 this year. That is the core facts of what we know. Anything else is speculation. Don't get bogged down in fear-mongering, in what if this happens, what if that happens. We can't run a business on what ifs. We have to run a business on facts and just be prepared to move quickly. So I want to say move quickly. I don't mean move platforms quickly. I just mean adapt to the situation. Because ultimately they're not going to cause you a problem with your current system quickly. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think? If you're a Magento user, let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are. If you think it's good, if it's bad. From my point of view, I think it's interesting. Adobe is certainly a good person to buy it because it does sort of fit in with their suite of tools. I don't think, no, it's not like they're going to shut it down. It's not like Shopify bought it, for example, and just closed it down. And in the same breath, I wouldn't be recommending anybody jump ship to Woo, to Shopify or anything yet. Just see what happens. Just be aware of what's going on. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts, your theories on what could be happening. Let me know in the comment section down below. Like I said, love to hear what you think. If you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. There's new content, usually weekly. And I always get back to comments and questions and that down below. So again, I hope you found this video useful. If you have, brilliant. And I'll catch you in the next video. I'll see you then. Bye.